Hey guys, what's up? This is Red Bull Tanker. Welcome back to Operation Fog of War. This is turn 7 for the United Kingdom and the Far East Command, or what's kind of left of it. As always, we'll kind of quickly take a quick look at sort of the board. U.S. is building up again in Europe after the disaster in after a disaster in Norway, or after the disaster in Norway. So they're building back up, and they're going to help us out with moving our army in Canada finally. They got that. We're also getting some forces over that way. Meanwhile, here in Africa, it is just a build-up match between our forces and the Italians and the Germans. And then over in Russia, things are kind of coming to a head. Germany's put their big stack here into Bessarabia, but they've also managed to drop a pretty big force down in Leningrad now, and from what we know, that's what took Norway. Let's see here. Big news for us. Unfortunately, Japan has conquered Calcutta. They took a fully damaged factory, though, but they were able to take it, and they have this fleet here in the Indian Ocean to threaten us. Japan also came down into the Money Islands. We think this is where that fleet is, but we're not 100% sure. And we think that's maybe where they put their Air Force. But we were able to, the Chinese scouted out, and we found the stack of 6 in Quichao, and then just taking positions have shown us that. And I guess I didn't mention it, Japan has walked over into the Caucasus against the Russians. Meanwhile, up in Manchuria, it is all still the same there. Funny enough, in the Season 19, where an American sub was, the Japanese sent 3 destroyers and a submarine, and they could not kill the American sub there. Let's see here. Pretty much, and then the U.S. is kind of up, still kind of preparing their forces for the Pacific. They kind of accidentally, because of some of the rules, they accidentally split their fleet. They split the 7th Fleet up. A small number of it is sitting off the Caroline Islands, while the rest went down to Australia, where they landed the 1st Marine Division and some artillery in Queensland to help out the Aussies in the event that maybe this Japanese fleet's hiding somewhere else and they're going to come in to take Queensland. And then just kind of, like I said, rounding it out over here, the Americans are kind of keeping their forces out there, just watching for the Japanese, and they've moved the 4th Marine Division from California out to Hawaii, and they're getting ready to transport them as well. All right, so going into our turn. So in order to make sure that Japan doesn't get too much IPC for taking India, we spent 3 IPC at the very beginning of turn 7 to see German purchases, which are right here. They paid off 5 damage to what we believe is the factory in Norway. They bought, and then we saw that they bought a sub, 6 infantry, 3 artillery, and a tank. But funny enough, we know that this submarine was killed during the American turn when the American destroyer went into Sea Zone 105. So that was good for us, and I decided I might start showing some of the casualties. So this was some of the casualties that we suffered during the first half of the turn. So those are sort of the casualties. So now we know that these guys are on the board somewhere, and we will just quickly move these up to the card here, just to show that we know that these are German forces somewhere on the board hiding from us. And then you just pull that off. And then for scouting, we took our strategic bomber from Transjordan and we scouted C-Zone 97 and didn't find anything. So let's keep right along. So starting off with our purchases, we bought 3 artillery, 3 mechanized infantry, and 2 infantry for this turn. The FEC had only 2 IPC left over, which the Japanese took when they took Calcutta. So the FEC is no longer going to be able to buy or purchase anything. We only did we tried one combat this turn, and that was just to take these ships over to 106 to see if there were any subs there. Luckily, there were no subs here. So now the force here has some protection for next turn at least, to keep them safe from the Germans if there are any subs still hiding out in the Atlantic. So then we'll just go right into non-combats. So, like I said, the Americans are going to give us a hand and are going to allow us to move our army onto 2 of their transports in 106. The American 5th Army here will board next turn, and they'll begin the transit across the Atlantic. Let's see, in Africa, we're moving these 2 guys to Tanganyika as a sort of insurance, depending how Japan plays their next turn. We're taking most of the fleet here off of Madagascar and bringing it down to South Africa in preparations for a potential move against Egypt next turn. Meanwhile, the destroyer off of Madagascar is going to go into a blocking position in 78. And then we're hoping that the French will move this destroyer to 79 so we can put a blocking force against the Japanese there. In the Middle East, where we're doing most of our moves, 2 tanks from Iraq are coming into Transjordan. We're leaving 1 tank behind. We're taking the tactical 1-2, putting it in Transjordan. We're taking this mech and going 1-2 to Iraq. And then we're taking the bulk of the 14th Army out of Western India and pulling it back to Eastern Persia and leaving 1 infantry to defend. And that was one thing. So that is pretty much that's all of our non-combats this turn. So then deployments. So we are taking the 3 mechanized infantry, deploying them in Iraq. We're taking the 2 infantry, placing them in Persia. And then we are taking our 3 artillery and dropping them into South Africa. All right. So then at the end of the turn, we get 30 IPC, but we don't have any of our bonuses, so we just get a straight 30 IPC. Hopefully, we'll be able to do something soon with that. Let's see here. I think that's about it for our turn. Like I said, nothing can really happen. Nothing can really happen over here now that Japan has taken out Calcutta. So the Far East Command is pretty much just basically doing a fighting retreat back to the Middle East. And hopefully we'll see what Japan does. We're kind of hoping that now that the Americans are moving out into the Pacific, maybe it'll draw them away a little bit more. But we'll have to see in turn 8 what they end up doing, and seeing also what Italy does this turn, and seeing what Italy and Germany do to see what our chances of attacking Egypt, or potentially attacking Egypt next turn will be for us. All right, so that is it for turn 7 of the UK and the Far East Command, and we will see you guys next time for turn 8. So until then, guys, take care.